Hey all, welcome back to the Fire and Water Cooking Podcast. I'm Darren, I'm your host, and today I have a great guest. He's been on before. He is Chef Eric Villegas of VacMaster. He is going to be at the International Sous Vide Association Sous Vide Summit this weekend, and I'm glad to have him talk about that today, and also what's going on with VacMaster. I'll be right back with Chef Eric Villegas.
Smoking, grilling, getting hot and hotter, sous vide and chilling from fire and water.
Hey all, I want to welcome back Inkbird Products as a sponsor of the Fire and Water Cooking Podcast. Inkbird makes many great different temperature controllers, thermometers, all kinds of time and temp controllers, but one of the best things that they make is their new Sous Vide circulator that includes Wi-Fi, 1,000 watts of power, and super quiet at a really affordable price. It's one of my top picks for a budget sous vide circulator for people who are just getting started. Make sure you check it out in the link below. Check out Inkbird. Welcome back, Inkbird Products, to the Fire and Water Cooking Podcast. Welcome back to the Fire and Water Cooking Podcast. I'm Darren, I'm your host, and again, I have a great guest with me. He's been on before, Chef Eric Villegas. He is from VacMaster Fresh. He is their, I would say the face of VacMaster, because he's the one that goes out and represents VacMaster. He has their YouTube channel. He does all their videos. He does their what's it called, the Fresh Bites blog. He does all the recipes developments and all that. So welcome back, Chef Eric.
Thank you, Darren, thank you so much for inviting me back.
You're always full of energy. I love having you.
I know.
I love talking to you. And just for those who don't know who you are, just give me just a brief, 5-minute, or not even that, your elevator pitch, who you are and what you do.
I was born, I'm a trained professional chef, culinary school in Europe and the United States. I had restaurants for about 25-ish years. I got involved with VacMaster a long time ago as a consumer, buying vacuum pack machines for my restaurants, wanting to go into sous vide back then. I came across sous vide as a culinary student in France in the mid-'80s and became totally enamored with it and wanted to recreate that experience for all sorts of reasons in my restaurants, because of the accuracy of the food, the quality of the food, the cleanliness, the cost savings, all those things factor into vacuum sealing foods and then cooking vacuum sealing food. And then I had a couple restaurants and cafes, and I got involved in television and ended up doing a show for PBS for about 8 years on regional foods of Michigan. Wrote a cookbook, then closed everything in around 2008 or so, and worked for Taste of Home Cooking magazine. If you've ever seen that in the grocery stores, they had a live cooking program, and I would jump in a van or fly from coast to coast, performing 2-hour live cooking demonstrations for up to 2,500 ladies in venues all across the country, from gymnasiums to hockey arenas. And at that time, I was still working with VacMaster, and I was just developing recipes and working on the blog. And then the Taste of Home program ended up shutting down after, 50 years or something. And so I went basically full-time to VacMaster as a consultant, and I just head up all the food part. And as you said, I'm the chubby face of the brand, for better or worse, at some levels. And I spend most of my time pre-COVID. I would spend 3 to 4 months out of the year traveling coast to coast, doing trade shows and representing the company at trade shows, demonstrating the equipment, cooking at trade shows, that kind of thing, and then conducting seminars and cooking classes for culinary groups and other chefs and that kind of stuff. And then when I was home, I would do recipe development. And now I'm home doing recipe development, and I can't go anywhere. This drives me crazy.
So you have a personality that would work really well on TV. Have you ever thought of doing any of these Food Network type shows, going on like Chopped or anything like that?
Well, having the opportunity to do a PBS cooking show for 8.5, almost 10 years, depending how you look at it, it was an incredible opportunity. Would I like to do another one? Of course. But the landscape has changed drastically since my show Fork of the Road that I created with my good friend Scott Allman, who also was a photographer and did all the video work. He basically developed the whole show, and I just kind of walked down and cooked. Would I like to do it again? Sure. Do I see it happening? Probably not. It's a completely different landscape. The funding on PBS is extremely difficult to navigate because you can't really get sponsors for ads because of the way PBS works. So you need more of an underwriter, and that's a very difficult thing to do. TV shows, especially traveling food shows, are not cheap to produce. As far as Chopped and the competitive shows, I have no interest in doing competitive cooking show at all. As a young man, when I was cooking in my restaurants, I would always get asked to do, the pork competition or the milk competition, and I just didn't see any point. What I wanted to do and what I did, every night I had a contest to make the best food I could for my customers. And the idea of going off and doing a contest just had little
nothing to gain for you.
I just didn't see any reason to do it. So I don't even watch those competitive shows. I don't find them to be necessarily real. I don't find that, I mean, it's good television, but culinarily speaking, I think it's a bit odd. And I was fortunate enough years ago on my television show to interview a lot of chefs, and Mario Batali was on my show a couple times, and we were discussing Iron Chef. And that's an interesting show. And what I was told was that they know exactly what the main ingredient or the surprise ingredient is going to be, but it's one of two. So let's say like sea bass or steak. So their whole team will work on a sea bass and steak recipe for a week or 2 weeks or whatever the lag time is. And then when it comes to the actual show and they do the big reveal, you see everybody jump to work immediately and talk to anybody. Why? Because they know it's either going to be one of two, and then they go ahead and do it. And then that limited amount of time that they have, 45 minutes or an hour, whatever it is, was, again, my understanding was to produce just one plate of food. When you see them doing all the food for the judges, they get another hour to do all that. Yeah. So, and it's not, I don't mean to say it's a sham. It's not at all. I mean, it's still great television, and their culinary prowess is definitely something to be admired, but it's not quite what they're representing. And that's the kind of stuff that I don't really enjoy being involved with, but I get it. And I'm an idiot because everybody loves it. So what the hell do I know?
Yeah. And, and I've always thought that, and I've had people that have been on those type of shows that told me that, because you never see like on Chopped where the guy just didn't finish and they kick him out, they always, they give him extra time.
Yeah. I don't know, but that's the thing. So I would rather, and I've always in my profession just wanted to cook as good as possible and make my customers happy. And when I had the opportunity to do television, I did that, and I had fun doing it. And I just basically recreated dishes I was already doing in the restaurant, or created recipes specifically for that segment, depending what the segment was about. And that was fun to me.
I talked to Meathead about, doing barbecue competitions. I asked him if he's ever, thought about doing those, because he's got nothing to gain and absolutely everything to lose because people are just expect him to win. And if he doesn't, they go, oh, well, you don't know anything then because you didn't win it. Because barbecue competitions are like anything. They're all subjective, You got all these different judges have different tastes, and one guy could win one and the next day he's last, so it's just, so he always said, I got nothing to gain and everything to lose, so there's no reason to do them. And they're not fun. It's like you said, he doesn't even see the fun in it. So let's talk a little bit about, what's going on with VacMaster right now. Even though we got COVID going on and all this lockdown and all this stuff, you guys are still releasing some new products.
Oh, heck yes.
And, two of them that are,
what are you talking about?
Well, and the two that excite my followers and me are the two new chamber sealers that came out, the VP 200 and the VP 95. And I got my hands on a VP 200. I didn't tell you this before, but I got my hands on one. I bought one. I got one, There's actually one place still on Amazon that has them. One of your
Oh my.
distributors, one of the distributors in Ohio, still has a few left, and I got one.
Oh, good for you.
So, and but the VP95 as well. Those are more geared towards They're smaller. I don't want to say they're geared towards a home cook, but they're more affordable than some of the
Yeah,
other
yeah.
chamber sealers.
Yeah.
So
The VP200 is our entry level chamber machine. Now that's it. When you look at our product sheet, we make a lot of vacuum pack machines, and 90% of them are commercial machines, specifically for the commercial food industry. But obviously, as you know, and we know, that there's a lot of people out there that want to vacuum seal at home, whether it's for long-term storage, if they're hunters or fishermen or something like that, or if they want to get involved in sous vide, or they just want to seal up coffee beans. That is vacuum technology is extremely enticing to a large amount of people. So we wanted to, our biggest sellers are the 210 and the 215, which are larger footprint with oil-based pumps, which are just the workhorses of the industry. They live forever and they go on forever. But we wanted to, and even though, a few years back, those were price leaders in the industry, we had a big flush of less expensive machines hitting the market, and we wanted to follow that trend. So we wanted to develop a machine that had the VacMaster heritage, but was at a much more competitive price. And that required doing some things to the machine that made it less expensive, but didn't take away from the actual vacuum power of it. And that's what the VP200 is. It's a small footprint machine. It's got a wide seal bar that'll seal up to 12-inch by 12-inch bags. It's pretty much automated. You have 3 vacuum levels. If you hit the mode button to go through, you can adjust the timing on the seal bar if you're using thinner bags like the more popular 3 mil bags or the thicker 5 mil bags. But it's a very basic entry-level machine that works exceptionally well and fits a good price point for us. The 95 is a completely different monster completely. This is a totally programmable machine. Like the VP200, it's stainless steel all the way around, but it's far more sophisticated in terms of its electronics. It's oil-based. It produces a seal like I've never seen before in any of our machines. It has a much more European streamlined look. It looks good on a countertop in any kitchen, and it's more expensive. But it was also designed around one feature that we felt was incredibly important. When people come to us, the number one bag that they buy is like a 10-inch by 12-inch bag, I believe it is. The machine was designed around our best-selling bag. Why design a machine with other sizes that you don't need? If everybody's buying that bag, then have the machine represent that. So that's one of the reasons why the machine is the size that it is. But it's a terrific machine. It's more expensive, but it's more sophisticated as well. But they're both wonderful machines. I have both. Well, I have just about every machine, and I'm running both of them side by side, and they both have their their merits one way or the other, and I really like both of them, and I use both of them interchangeably. But the interesting thing about the VP95 is as it is an oil-based pump, and you have maintenance, you've got to change the oil, but it has an oil cleaning feature, which actually, so when you're pulling a vacuum, when you pull a vacuum, whether it's an edge sealer or a chamber machine, there's liquid, moisture that gets sucked into the pump. Whether it's a lot or a little, it's still there. And that eventually, over time, degrades the pump. So that's why in an oil-based machine, you want to change your oil, like in your car, you want to change your oil so the pump, or the engine rather, is working to its optimum. Well, a lot of that is just liquid, is just water, is vapor. And what this machine does, what the 95 does, is it actually heats up the oil to boil off the water, if you will.
Wow.
And that's what actually, it's really interesting. It's a fascinating machine, and there has so many features. I still haven't figured them all out. But yeah, they're both really cool machines. They're both different price points. I'm a big fan of both of them and our entire line. I also have the 325 in my laundry room with gas flush, and I've been nitrogen packing and carbon dioxide filling bags with all sorts of crazy stuff inside them. So I have a lot of fun.
Yeah, I did get to play around with the VP 200 some, and it is like you said, it's a basic.
Yeah.
And I think it's perfect for the home user that wants to process large quantities of food and use it for sous vide. I occasionally will buy a whole or half steer and fill my freezer, and unfortunately the processor that I use, they only wrap it in butcher paper, and so
Right.
I like to redo a lot of their stuff
Sure. Yeah.
and vacuum seal it because it lasts 100 times longer than it's just sitting there in butcher paper. So that's one of the reasons I use a vacuum sealer. But you know I haven't had a chance with the VP95, but I can tell, even though it's a smaller footprint and it takes the smaller bags, if that's the one that you would know what bags you're selling. So if you're saying that that's the number one selling bag you have,
Yes.
and if it's mostly for sous vide, I would say that size bag is what people are going to be using anyway.
I don't know, to be brutally honest with you. I don't know if that's necessarily true or not, because it's been our best selling bag for years before sous vide,
Yeah.
before we started selling circulators. So, but I don't really have an answer to that question, but yeah, it was designed around that. And I just think I just think it's a really cool machine. And the VP 200, again, they're simple to use. And that's the idea, is to take the guesswork out of it. If you're going to geek out, if you want to have all the dials and the things, you go to a 95 or some of our bigger machines. If you just want to, seal something and not even think about it, that's, you're in VP 200 territory. It's just, everybody's different. Everybody has different wants and needs on what they need vacuum packaging to do for them. And if they're going to introduce cooking vacuum sealed foods and sous vide, then there's another whole level that you can screw around with.
Yeah. And the good thing about both of those units is, like you said, they have a smaller footprint and they're easier to sit on your counter and they look nice. They're not,
Yeah.
look at them, people come into your house and go, what in the world is that big, huge thing
Right.
taking up half your counter,
Right.
So
And both of those, unlike our original line, have total touchscreen control boards. That's a move forward for us in that direction, where most of our stuff was the pressy button thing. I don't know what the terminology is, but these are all really nice and smooth. And sometimes, to detriment, I'll just run my finger across it and it'll start. I don't know what happened. I get scared. But yeah, they're both cool. I like both of them.
So let's talk about the growth of sous vide. I mean, we talked last year a little bit about this, and I see it to continue to grow, especially with what's going on now. I mean, we can talk about, what COVID has done. I've had a couple of guests on lately that even in the barbecue side and the equipment sales, the grill manufacturers, the charcoal manufacturers, their sales have increased, over these last few months dramatically because people are staying home and cooking more, and the restaurants were closed for a while and they couldn't get out. So people were looking back at, hey, people are buying $1,000 grills, and it's not that there's supply line problems. It's just they're buying more of them. I've got grill companies that are telling me they're selling twice as many grills this time of year than they did last year. So have you guys found the same thing happening with some of the stuff that you guys sell? Or
Yeah, our sales are not soft. I mean, I was worried, right? And as I think everybody was in every market, but I think what you're saying is true. I mean, I have no numbers really to back any of that up, but it seems that we're seeing a lot more cooking videos, people cooking more. It's certainly, when that VP 200 hit, they were sold out before they even reached shore, and then the other shipments coming. So, and who exactly are buying those? Again, I don't have the numbers for that. If it's hunters or commercial or whatever, but I definitely see an increase, and we're very comfortable with where we are in that realm. But I will, on the other hand, it makes it harder, just because I can't be with my team. I just can't fly into Kansas City and sit at a table and discuss. I mean, we can do all the Zoom meetings we want, but it's not the same thing. We spend a lot of time or spent a lot of time traveling to trade shows. And that's when we have that one-on-one with our customers. And very few of our competitors do those. The really big ones do. It's a very interesting thing to be on the floor talking to people face to face about what vacuum sealing is, what sous vide is, what can they use these machines for commercially, how can they incorporate it into their business at home, can I make my chili a week in advance? The questions run the gamut. So it's very exciting to be able to do those, and I just hope we can hit the trade show circuit again, because I really miss the interaction with the customer.
Now, you're going to be a part of the second annual Sous Vide Summit that's coming up later this week, as will I. And this year, of course, because of what's going on, it's virtual. Have you had any other trade shows and stuff that you had been involved with in the past that have gone virtual this year? Or are they?
Yes and no. I mean, we went to, I don't know, 20, 30 trade shows a year, something like that. And you're bouncing around the country, one end of the other. A lot of them have offered online, like breakout sessions and things, but as a trade show, what I want to say, as a trade show participant, as what I like to call a booth monkey, sitting by my booth and pretending I'm in the circus and having people come to my booth. If they offered a online or a interactive kind of program for that, I haven't seen any. So in a long-winded answer to your question, for me, the trade show circuit is dead. It's dead to me, Darren. It's dead to me until we can open up and go back to these damn shows. So I'm not really sure what other people are doing, but I have seen some of the bigger shows offering, like seminars, the same seminars that you would see at the show, right? About increasing your bottom line or doing this or doing that. I see those being available, but for somebody's just at a booth hawking their wares, I haven't seen any of that. I'm not saying it's not there. I just haven't seen it.
Now, how important is that to you? Because you have an outgoing personality, and it seems to me like you love meeting new people. And
I do.
And doing all that stuff.
As much as I hate humans, I love going to trade shows. My personality is what it is, for better or worse. But I do enjoy extolling the virtues of vacuum sealing and sous vide, whether it's my wonderful company VacMaster or any other company. It's not really about the equipment for me. It's about the technique. It's a fantastic, amazing technique to understand and to use properly. And whether it's just vacuum sealing for storage or for portioning or for marinating or for any of that, to something like, oh, geez, looking at my big fat head.
There you are.
Or some of the other things. It's just a really it's a fantastic technique. So when I was able to work with VacMaster, I was exceptionally lucky and gracious. They were so gracious with their time. That allowed me to do that. And I am an evangelist for the technique, right? VacMaster happens to make all the equipment I need to pursue that technique, but I'm really, as much as I love that, I'm really about cooking and using this technique, and among a lot of others, to get people to eat better at home and to enjoy the creative process, whether it's at home or in a commercial setting.
Yeah, and kind of like me, I enjoy showing people that they can do it. They can do something. It's not as hard as some people might think it is, especially when people hear the word sous vide. They think of, only fancy chefs know how to use this. It's something out of my range. I like to show people that even an adult like me could use it. I mean, it's not that. Once you learn, once you learn the basics, I mean, it's pretty easy.
What's that adult Darian doing all by himself? I keep saying Darian. Is it because it's 2 R's?
Yeah, probably. There's about 8 different ways to spell my name. So
you're right. That's exactly it. And for me, as I mentioned earlier, going to multiple culinary schools on 2 different continents and working in the restaurant industry for decades, I'm embarrassed how easy sous vide is. Yeah. I didn't have to do anything. I could just throw stuff in a bag and cook it, and it comes out so exceptionally well. It's really something.
That's what I'm showing the VacMaster YouTube channel, because you do a lot of their videos, of course, and
Yeah.
not just product demonstrations, but you have a lot of recipe development on there, and you show people how to use these machines, and your personality comes through on those.
Oh,
And
thank you.
I really love
Like that
watching them.
personality?
I really love watching because your passion comes through on it, and that's when things people can relate to passion, and you're not a phony, fake. I mean, people can sniff out, when somebody's just trying to sell a product, or
Right.
when they're actually, excited about what they're showing you, and you don't make it all about the product. You make it about how to use these products and to make something amazing, and that's why I'm showing people. I want everybody to go to the VacMaster YouTube channel and check out those videos. But you also have the VacMaster website as well that has the Fresh Bites blog on it, that you do all the recipes and stuff on there as well. So there is this content that you create that shows people how to use these products. And we didn't even talk about the rub line that VacMaster has. So
Yeah, well, yeah, the rub line is currently on hiatus. We sold out during COVID, and we
oh
sell
really?
most of that during the trade show season. Because when we go to these trade shows, I actually cook, and I will fly in to wherever we are, and I take a Uber directly to Costco, and I'll spend like $1,000 on strip loins and lamb legs and whatever, and I'll bring it back to the room, and I butcher it all in my hotel room. And it's true. It's so embarrassing. And it all comes to the hotel room, and then we have the unit shipped to my room, and I set up a cooking station, and I got vacuum sealers and circulators. I cook everything in the bathroom. And I can tell you, different chains have different bathrooms, and some are better to cook in, and some aren't so great. And I'll put in, I'll do my New York strips, which is generally the red meat I do. I'll do New York strips for 8 hours, and I put them in at midnight, and I pull them out at 8 a.m. and do the chill down, and then put them in coolers and take them straight to the venue. And we leave them there in ice over 2 or 3 days and cook them away. And so when we were coming up with this concept, and it took a while, to see what we were going to do, I needed something that was going to season really quickly and showcase, what this technique could do with minimal work. And so the seared line were recipes and formulas that I had developed years and years and years ago in my restaurants that I reformulated for sous vide cooking, and they sold amazingly well, considering we didn't do anything. So, stack them on the table at trade shows, and people loved them. I mean, they sold really well. So we're kind of again in hiatus, waiting for COVID to end and not re-up, because of the minimum order to have these things, produced.
Right. Yeah.
Is going to be a while. So but I have a bunch of them here that I still continue to work with, and I'll be using the burger blend for the hamburgers for the Sous Vide Summit, which is something I think I did at the first summit as well when we fed people. But yeah, so all sorts of fun stuff. It's really a wide open book of directions we can go and directions we can take the company. And I'm the only food person, true food person, trained food person at VacMaster, and everybody else are engineers and marketing people and sales people. And so they just don't know what to think of me. But I like to turn them on to what we're doing, and they do, Friday food fests, and they'll, maybe cook something for lunch, and the circulators all over the office, and they'll use the rubs, or they'll make their own. It's a lot of fun.
Now, who were the main purchasers of the rubs? Were they restaurants? Were they,
No, they were individuals. They were homey individuals, people that would just come up and, I want that, and they'll buy like 5 or 6 or 7, and just kind of throw them at them, and nice prices. And of course, we sold them online, but we didn't really pursue any national distribution for the spice line, because we were just kind of fooling around to see what direction it was going to go.
Sure, see if it would sell. I mean,
Yeah.
I've talked to several, barbecue guys that, like you said, they started, well, I want to sell my own rub, but then they found out you got to buy 400 cases of it to, for your initial order.
The minimum order is high, which is why it was so good for us for trade shows, because if we're doing, let's say, the restaurant show in Chicago, the NRA show, that's, I don't know. I'm just gonna pull numbers out of the air. Something like 10,000 attendees over, X amount of days. And I'm cooking up sirloin strips and cutting them into chunks and dusting them with my wild mushroom roasted garlic rub, and they're, eating them away. And I don't even know. I sometimes like 20 or 30 people will go by before I bring my head up and see if anybody's actually, who they are. But yeah, it's interesting. The rub business is interesting. Then, there's warehousing and then all the
labeling and everything. Yeah.
Warehousing food and that kind of stuff. There's lots involved with it.
Yeah, there's a lot more to it than people understand. And like I say, I talked to a couple of guys and they're just like, yeah, I had to buy 400 cases. And you're like, I hope this stuff sells because I got 400 cases of the stuff sitting in my garage.
Yeah, because
for VacMaster, it's a little bit easier because it's a big company, but
still, we're huge.
But it's still, you got to, that's just going to sit in a warehouse and rot. You just don't want that.
There is a shelf life, so to speak. The spices don't go bad, right? But they can lose their intensity, and due to legalities, you have to put a best by date on it. And some people look at it as an expiration date, but it's not technically an expiration date. So there's that. So you got to move it. You got to push this stuff out. So but it's great. And I've been able to do a lot of fun stuff. The wild mushroom, the burger blend, the Michigan maple rub, the lake effect is my all-purpose seasoning. There's all sorts of fun stuff, and there's new stuff too that's really cool.
Well, cool.
I can't wait.
I can't wait to try it. I hope all this stuff goes away soon so we can get back to normal and some of this stuff we can experience together. I was really looking forward to going to the Sous Vide Summit in San Francisco this year because I'd never been to the Bay Area. I've only been to Southern California, and I have family actually up there, and I was going to visit them while I was there and all that. But I was really looking forward. I wasn't able to attend last year because I got notified, too late. I'd already had my year planned out, but I was really looking forward to this year, and really hate that.
Yeah, me too. I really wanted to go. I was really honored to be at the first one and to see what Mike and Jason did for their first show, and it was really remarkable at how well it came off. And meeting all the people there, and I was really looking forward to number 2, and to be involved with a trade show like that, with a group of people like that on the ground floor at the very beginning. That's never happened to me before, and so that was very exciting to be involved with that, and looking forward to what the future will hold, because it's a wonderful, as I've been saying, a wonderful technique, and to be involved with all these people who are really just giants in the industry and learning from them is a pretty inspiring position to be in. And meeting Meathead, who's a hoot, and his knowledge, which is just crazy deep, is really exciting.
Yeah, and I've talked to Mike and Jason about this too, and it's really not a trade show. It's a bunch of enthusiasts who got together, and that's the thing about it. It's people that are passionate. It's not just another job or another thing to do. For a lot of us, it's I don't get paid for any of this stuff. You got a lot of people. We got a lot of people that gave up their time and volunteered, and just because they are passionate about this. So that's a lot different than I've been to plenty of, business trade shows. You got somebody like the guy standing at the booth passing out business cards or product, with no enthusiasm whatsoever. This is a bunch of guys that are just really excited and enthusiastic about teaching people how to use a cooking method that is, they can do it a lot with. And that's what got me involved in is I want to show people that it's not just cooking a perfect steak. It can do so much more. And it's not just a gadget that's going to sit in a drawer somewhere. It's not an Instapot. It's not a George Foreman grill. It's a total cooking method that does so much more than they could ever dream of. And it's not that hard. Like you said, once you get the basics down and you can realize how much you can expand it. I mean, it's really, it just blows my mind. That's what, the more and more I look at it and the more I figure out and play around and experiment, the more excited I get about it. So
yeah, no, it's really neat. I'll be doing Northern Michigan beef pasties for my actual class. and they'll be baked, but I'm doing all the ingredients sous vide separately and then assembling it. So traditionally a pasty is made with raw ingredients enclosed in pastry, and it's like an hour cook or an hour and a half cook, depending on the size of the pasty. And they are designed to be dry because of the way that they were wrapped in linens and put in the miners' jackets to keep them warm. And if they broke and oozed wonderful juices, that would be bad. So, you know, there's form and function in this particular recipe as well, but we don't have to do that anymore. So I wanted to get a little bit juicier, but not lose what it was all about. So sous vide was the perfect technique to allow me to use lesser cuts and get maximum tenderness and maximum flavor. Cook the vegetables perfectly. And I'm going to do something fun. And I'm not going to say because you got to watch, but I'm doing something fun that will allow me to introduce a little bit more moisture into the pasty. And I'm doing little baby ones. And the little baby one, when you do this technique, you can cook the dough is raw, obviously, and the filling is completely cooked. You can pump it out at a good temperature, and you can get it done in like 15 minutes in an oven. So if you're in a commercial setting, you could have these things, you know, all lined up. When the order comes in 15 minutes, it can be hot on a plate out, and it's perfect. And it's there's a lot of different techniques involved in what I'm doing for it, and that's what I love doing. I love being able to look at a recipe, and in my restaurants, it was looking at world recipes and taking them apart and putting that back together with a Michigan soul, utilizing as many local Michigan and Great Lakes ingredients as I could find. And when I do sous vide, it's the same kind of thing. It's looking at a great recipe and how can I streamline it? How can I clean it up? How can I make it better? How can I make it consistent for the home cook or for the professional chef? And they can save money. And they save money in a restaurant and save money at home. Everybody wins.
Exactly. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, that's just, to me, that's why I get excited about it. People look at me sometimes and go, well, you don't have to sous vide everything. I said, no, you don't have to. I mean, but there's reasons why sous vide works so well in various situations, because it is precise temperature cooking. It does let you cook your proteins at the perfect temperature without overcooking it and drying it out and all that stuff. So there's plenty of things that it can do besides just make a steak, you know, and you know, people get caught in ruts sometimes and they get, you know, something stuck in their head and they don't want to expand their understanding.
You're absolutely right. By the same token, other than us, Darren, other than you and me, people have other things that they do. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know why. Yeah. All I do is cook. But, you know, so it's my job. They say you don't have to sous vide everything. Yes, you do. So you can find out what works and what, you know, education you can pass on to your reader, to your viewer, to your customer. And it's our job to find out what works and what doesn't work. So the people who are watching, who want to learn, they avoid those pitfalls, you know. Right. But you know, it's like the people with the crock pot thing, you know. At one point, everything was in a crock pot, and it all, I mean, it's delicious, I'm sure, but everything ended up looking the same because it's all crock pot. And that's okay. I mean, crock pots are great. Everything's great. You know, it's how you use the technique judiciously. You make sure that it makes sense, and then you leave other techniques to do things that it does well, and what a crock pot does well, or what are those multi-pots, what those do well, or the Thermomix or the Bellini, what those do well, you know, and kind of incorporate all those into your cooking style.
Sure. Yeah.
You like that? This shows.
I love it. There you go. But I agree with you 100%. And, you know, I tell people all the time, I love cooking a brisket on the smoker, the traditional barbecue brisket, you know, where you cook it over 200 degrees, low and slow, or you get the smoke. But with sous vide and mixing it with barbecue, I can make something completely different that I can't make with just sous vide or just barbecue or just, you know, smoking it. I can make a medium rare brisket that's very tender and smoky. So that's what I'm going to be talking about, you know, at the summit, is how you can take these two methods and create something totally different that you couldn't create with those methods on their own.
Right.
And that's what really excites me when I can show people that, and they go, oh yeah. Even Steven Reichland, who is a big barbecue guy, big PBS, you know, shows all the time, you know, tons of books, author. I had him on my podcast last year, and he right off the bat told me, I'm not big into sous vide, and I like to cook over open. And I told him what I just told you, and he was like, you may have changed my mind about that. It's like, I said, because it's not just about, yeah, maybe sous vide won't make it better than if I smoke it, but I can make something totally different, completely, something totally completely different, just
well,
like
Stephen is a fascinating guy, and I never had the opportunity to truly meet him. But I mentioned I went to school in France, and I went to a school called La Varenne École de Cuisine, located in Paris. And what was interesting about the school was it was completely taught in French, and I didn't speak French when I went, but it was completely taught in French. And then there was a stagiaire, an assistant, who would immediately translate into English whatever the chef was saying. And Stephen was one of them. And Stephen was the best known. He left right before I got there. And he had written books when he was there with Anne Willis. Right. And he has the most enormous noggin full of French cuisine than anybody I've ever met. And I've had the fortune to meet a lot of people, a lot of French chefs, a lot of American chefs who studying for But Stephen is truly, truly something. And what I find so fascinating about him, unless he is doing a recipe that might have a French influence, he might say a word with a French accent, you would never dream this guy who is promoting American barbecue more well-versed in French cuisine than anybody else on the planet. He's really something. He's a terrific presenter and a very, very smart man.
Yeah, I was very, I didn't know his background until I had him on the I've watched his shows and I read some of his books, but I didn't know that he was French trained. And then when that came out in the podcast, I was like, well, that explains some things, because when you watch him, he's not like watching, Marlon Mixon or some of the barbecue competitor, he is totally, different. And he comes from that, I guess trying to bring, sophistication to barbecue more than open fire cooking than just the, what you see on, the barbecue pitmaster show. So,
right. No, you're right. And I think that's a lovely thing when you're well versed in all areas of cuisine, and then you pick one that you really want to go after, and then you bring all that knowledge and adapt it and finesse it and caress it into like what Stephen's doing with barbecue. I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, but it was really fun to watch his eyes kind of light up and the little light bulb went on when I said that to him, because he was just, I don't want to talk about, because he didn't want, to try to have to put the two together. And, and when I said that to him, he was like, well, I think you might have, hit on something there. So, but I didn't want to defend it. I just was going to say, well, this is how I look at it, Stephen. And he was like, I never thought of it that way, but okay.
Yeah, I just did some briskets, the smoke first and then smoke second kind of thing. And they're just delicious. I mean, they're absolutely delicious.
All right. Well, is there anything else you want to talk about, Eric? I know we're all getting ready for the Sous Vide Summit. Everybody's going to be able to see you there if they sign up.
I hope they sign up.
Yeah. Make
sure
you
I just want to be cooking away for only me in my little apartment.
Well, I am giving away a VP 200 if they sign up.
Oh, God bless you. Where'd you get it? Oh, the one that you... my goodness. How much you get that for? Out of curiosity, how much you get that for?
$473.
Do you see what that machine is? Man, is there another machine at that price point? Chamber?
Nope, that's the cheapest chamber out there, and it's actually quite nice. So I'm giving away one if they sign up through my affiliate link through my blog. Go to fireandwatercooking.com. Check out the blog post that has the contest.
How much?
$473.
Oh, Lord. That is so ridiculously cheap for chamber, right?
I know.
Oh, my gosh.
I mean, that's why I think they sold out so quick. I mean,
they're not.
Yeah. So, I mean, they, when the closest, the VP to 10 is, $1,000. So, I mean, literally you're, half off, if not more. So it's, to have a chamber sealer.
Put up with some of the failings, I shouldn't say failings, some of the limitations of the VP because of the price point.
Right. Exactly. Well, it's like anything. You give up a little, but it's still a chamber sealer. So
it's a chamber sealer that sucks the crap out of a bag and seals it, and that's what we go for.
So make sure you guys check out my blog, fireandwatercooking.com, and so you can sign up to see Eric Villegas. Now you're doing a couple things at the summit, correct?
Yeah, I'm going to, my class is going to be the beef pasty, as I alluded to earlier, and it's about breaking down that Northern Michigan classic hailing from Wales, from the Cornish miners, and incorporating the sous vide technique and how you can make a better pasty. And then I'm going to be doing burgers on Saturday, and I think, I'm not really clear on exactly what I'm doing, other than I'm making Juicy Lucy's, is to make the Juicy Lucy's, and people are going to follow in and cook with me when I do it for their lunch, I guess. I'm not really sure. All I know is I'm doing it, and I'm taking questions as I do it. But I love me some Juicy Lucy's, and I honestly think the sous vide method for Juicy Lucy is a really no-fail because they don't leak.
Right.
It's really great. It's a really great way to do it. And we spent a lot of time in Milwaukee, and I made my team take me to every Juicy Lucy restaurant. Not Milwaukee, and where was it? Wisconsin? No, Minneapolis. Minneapolis? Wherever it was from, we were there. And I made them take me to every Juicy Lucy restaurant. We had the quote unquote original, the sort of the original, the upscale, the downscale, all of them. And they're tasty little sons of guns. I love them.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. People will always go, "Oh, I don't understand why you would, sous vide burger." Or I'm doing a meatloaf right now. I got a meatloaf in the sous vide right now, and people don't understand that if you want to cook something to an exact temperature, especially if you want a thick burger or something like a Juicy Lucy where it's thick, and you want to make sure the meat gets done, and you don't want to cook it to death, you still want it juicy,
right?
And then you cook it to the exact temp, then you sear it. And especially if you like a medium rare burger. Now, right. I like a big, thick, medium rare burger, but you can't go to a restaurant anymore and order a medium rare burger because, they won't let you because
medium rare police come and pull you over.
I know.
You.
Oh, sorry, it's got to be medium well. You gotta.
What are you doing? You're gonna kill everybody at the table. So I got to put a mask on my medium rare burger so it doesn't affect them.
So it's a perfect situation, and once people understand, they go, "Oh yeah, now I can see it." You're not going to do smash burgers sous vide, of course, because you're smashing the crap out of it. But for a big, thick, medium rare burger or Juicy Lucy or something like a meatloaf, where I want that meat cooked, to a certain temperature, and I don't want it dried out, and I don't want it, raw in the middle and burnt on the outside. It makes it to where I can take that meatloaf out of the sous vide, put it under a broiler for 3 or 4 or 5 minutes, get a nice crust on it, and eat it, and it's perfect.
Absolutely. So, did you see my video for meatloaf?
I probably did. It's but I don't.
It was tasty, and what I ended up doing, and I'm going to be doing it again, and something I've been working on here at home was planked food, where I cook the food on the plank sous vide.
Okay.
So it actually cooks. So I'll char the board, get that char, let it cool, then put the salmon on the charred board, and then vacuum seal that, and then cook that sous vide, and then store it. Now so hopefully theoretically, the charred board in the cooking process is flavoring the fish, right? And then when you're ready to serve it, you can broil it. You can reheat it or retherm it sous vide, or you can do it from cold in the smoker, which is what I've been doing a lot lately, is putting the cold plank with the cold fish and a probe in and rubbing it, and then putting that at like 160 Fahrenheit with maximum smoke, and bring that slowly up to temperature, getting smoke on the plank. Or, there's so many different variations you can do of that. And I'm doing it with meatloaf as well, because the meatloaf will pick up more smoke because, the temperature is cooked through on that one in my recipe, cooks so much farther that it picks up more smoke, and you can glaze it and do all these things. Yeah. So it's a lot of fun, but you need the right size machine, for the planks. And I found that the edge sealers work the best for planks, because then you can do it, you can with an edge sealer, you can vacuum seal your thigh.
Right, exactly.
You got the room. And that's a lot of fun. So you might want to try that. But in my video for the meatloaf, I cooked it sous vide, but I served it on a charred plank.
Gotcha.
And that gave, I charred the plank and then put the meatloaf on it. And that gave it that kind of woodsy, kind of smoky, kind of
very
meat,
interesting.
even though it was all cooked in a bag. I love it.
I like to do like the they call them fatties, where you do the meatloaf and wrap it in bacon and all that, because it cooks the bacon. Right. So when you go throw it on the smoker afterwards, you don't have to worry about the bacon not cooking all the way, when the meat getting overdone while it's waiting for the bacon to cook and all that kind of thing, because usually it's really tough when you got a bacon wrapped meatloaf. Either the bacon's going to be done and your meat's going to be, all dried out and nasty, or your bacon's not going to be done and to make the meat, perfect. So if you sous vide it, you get everything cooked, and then you're just crisping the bacon up, and everything stays,
Right.
inside just stays nice and juicy.
When I started doing the Fresh Bites blog back in the day, we weren't doing video. They were just all like, they were blog posts with pictures.
Right.
And I did a bacon wrapped tenderloin. And I wasn't really clear, I just wanted to do it. And I was amazed in the sense that when I'd had it as a young man at the country club or at restaurants, the bacon was cinched like a girdle, and you had that string around the outside. It pinched
Right.
it in, and the bacon was falling off, and it wasn't completely cooked, and it was just it was a bad experience. But what I ended up doing was I used meat glue, and I glued the bacon to the tenderloin steak, to the filet mignon, whichever one I was using. And I vacuum sealed that, and I cooked them all together. And then after I brought it out and I seared it and served it, what amazed me was, in previous incarnations, the bacon wrapped tenderloins I had growing up, was when I ate it, if the bacon was cooked well or not, didn't matter. You tasted beef and bacon. When you wrap it and cook it together, you get this bacony tenderloin, and the flavor was light years superior, right? And to go back to your point, and the bacon was perfectly cooked. And because I use the trans boot, because I use the glue, it was a smooth cover. There wasn't any cinching, and it was beautiful. And I was really, really impressed. And it's just that cooking the tenderloin with the bacon, that bacon fat, that smoky bacon. Obviously, the quality of bacon is important in that particular dish, and it just flavored the beef. It was fantastic.
Man, sounds delicious. You're making me hungry.
Oh, it's my job.
Well, make sure you guys check out the Sous Vide Summit this weekend with Eric Villegas. Also, check out the VacMaster YouTube channel. Check out VacMaster Fresh, the website, and look up the Fresh Bites blog. That's where Eric usually find all his blog posts as well. And I really appreciate you being on, Eric. And I can't wait to watch your videos at the Sous Vide Summit. And
Darren, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me back. And for those of you who are watching, he asked me weeks ago, and I was an idiot, and I was traveling and doing some stuff with my family, and I spaced out, and I didn't get back to him, so I apologize. And you're so
That's
great
all right.
making time to get me back on. But I look forward to seeing you and your endeavors and continued success in what you're doing. I mean, you just keep rolling along and doing more and getting more followers, and it's very exciting to see. So thank you, and I look forward to this weekend as well.
Well, I appreciate you being on. You don't have to, and you do this. I don't pay any of my guests, so you guys do this on your own.
So why did I get that check?
Don't cash that check. That's what it. Well, thanks for being on. I appreciate it, and we'll see you guys on the next Fire and Water Cooking podcast. Make sure you join the summit, the Sous Vide Summit. I'll have a link in the description below. See you on the next episode. Well, thanks again for joining us on the Fire and Water Cooking Podcast. I want to thank Chef Eric Villegas one more time for being on from VacMaster. Check out the links below. You can find his YouTube channel and his blog on VacMaster Fresh. Make sure you check out the Sous Vide Summit coming up this weekend, August 21st to the 23rd. You can check out many of the guests that will be on there. Check out the link below. Sign up, and you can win a VP200 VacMaster. I'll see you again on the next Fire and Water Cooking Podcast.